here we have New York. Now, we remember New York from the story where Burke is going over Niagara Falls yelling. So Niagara yelling reminds us of New York. And he was in a barrel going over the falls. Well, here we have replaced Burke with a bunny. And of course, if a bunny was going over the falls in a barrel, you would say, "Oh, bunny," because you would be worried about him. But not that we'd ever put a bunny in a barrel to go over the falls, but it does work to help us remember. Now, New York, the state, the Mohicans lived here, and then the Dutch occupied New York for a while, and then finally the British took it over from the Dutch. And in 1664, King Charles II gifted it to his brother, James, the Duke of York and Albany. So the words York and Albany come from James, who was the brother of King Charles. The word York itself is really old. It's a place in England, and it is Latin for city. So when you say New York City, you're kind of really saying New City City. But anyway, it works, and the capital is Albany, New York. Guess it's not the greatest thing that I have the New England cottontail being sacrificed in the barrel going over the falls when she is the endangered species that we are trying to protect, but I'm sure you understand. It's in the name of learning, and the bunny is fine. No bunnies were harmed in the making of this film. Okay, here's Connecticut. The abbreviation is CT, which stands for caught, and Burke, as you can see here, caught a ride on a mast. We're going to continue with this idea of catching something, but this time we're going to use our endangered species, which is a red knot, K-N-O-T, which is a kind of bird, and the bird has caught a hart because the capital is Hartford, Connecticut. The state itself, Connecticut, was named after the Connecticut River, and the Mohegans who were there, the Algonquin, which is the language, the word Connecticut means long river place. And Hartford itself, as capital, was originally called Newtown. So what happened was the Thomas Hooker and the Reverend Samuel Stone, who was a Puritan minister, were in Boston, and they sought out a new place because they were looking for religious freedom. They were Protestants, and they wanted to sort of separate from all of the complexity of the Catholic Church. They wanted to go back to just their simple, ancient purity and simplicity of religion. So they set up shop in Hartford, and it was named after Samuel Stone's home in England, which was called Hertford. Up next is Rhode Island, the abbreviation RI for the word ride, because Burke caught a ride on a mast. Here you have our American burying beetle, which is our endangered species for the area, and the beetle is riding the fence in Providence. So hopefully that'll help you remember that the capital is Providence, Rhode Island. The word Rhode Island itself comes to us from a Dutch explorer whose name was Adrian Block, and the word in Dutch means red clay. The word Providence comes to us from Pastor Roger Williams, who was a separatist. Providence, which means divine care, and he actually named one of his girls Providence as well. He seemed like a pretty decent guy. He was one of the first abolitionists, went against slavery. He advocated for fair dealings with Native Americans, and he even studied Native American languages. I think he just got a little too wrapped up because in the end, I learned that he had banned everyone from his church except for himself. So yeah, I think he went a little bit too far. You can't have a church of one. But anyway, lots of good things that have come from Roger Williams, and especially because he's given us Providence, Rhode Island, and the American burying beetle riding the fence in Providence. Moving on to Massachusetts, the abbreviation is MA, which makes us think of the mast of the boat. If you picture a really heavy cross made of wood that is customarily part of a boat, you can think that the cross weighs a ton for Boston. Now, the word Massachusetts was from a Native American tribe who lived in the area of the same name, and Boston was named in 1630. The first governor, John Winthrop, named it after a place in England called Boston. And apparently there were many people in the area who were from England, so the name Boston was very popular. And to remind you of the cross that weighs a ton, we're also going to enlist the help of our endangered species for the area, which is the Atlantic sturgeon, which is a fish that weighs quite a bit. So hopefully that will help you remember Boston, Massachusetts. All right, let's review. The bunny in Albany, New York. The hart in Hartford, Connecticut. Riding the fence in Providence, Rhode Island. And the cross weighing a ton in Boston, Massachusetts. Review time. Here we're going to take the bunny, put him in New York for Albany, New York. Next, we're going to take this hart, slide it over here for Hartford, Connecticut. Next is the beetle on the fence for Providence, Rhode Island. And last, this cross is going to go here, and it's for Boston, Massachusetts.